Thank you for joining me once more on TMI Tuesday. We're looking at the 2023 polls and the Electoral Amendment Act Saga, the Section 84, subsection 12 that is still trending, and the issue about the President and the Attorney General of the Federation, Minister of Justice, suing the National Assembly, and particularly, basically, ensuring that, stating that the Supreme Court should interpret the Section 84, subsection 12, which has been really causing a lot of ripples and political debate. And intriguing as that could be, being joined to discuss this, starting from my extreme left, is a legal practitioner, otherwise known as the custodian of the law, to bring light or share light into gray areas in this regard. And he is a reverend and Alegu Joseph, the senior pastor of Mega Grace Chapel. Thank you for joining me, Joseph.
Thank you. Good morning. Welcome viewers to this enlightening moment on TMI.
Right. Next to him is a political analyst, and he is Ibrahim Mohammed. Thanks for joining me, Ibrahim Momo. Did I change your name?
Good morning, very esteemed viewers. You're welcome to TMI.
All right. So quickly, let's look at this. You are the custodian of the law, and so it's expected that as we expect more light to be shared in this aspect of the Section 84, subsection 12 of the Electoral Amendment Act, what do you see as the beautiful side of this Electoral Act?
When we talk about, thank you once again, when we talk about legal reforms, it is to take care of the loopholes, observable loopholes in some of the frameworks of operations that we have within the society. The essence of the law is to make sure that society is properly governed. We function within the social milieu, and it is made up of humans. So it is not made up of robots or inanimate objects. So we are to function within the social milieu, and to bring order and good governance, law comes into play. And so law is made for man. It is made for the betterment of how our society is organized and how our lives will move forward in a positive direction. Yeah. So the legislature is actually there as a law-making arm of the government, to making sure that laws that are made are for the good governance and orderliness of society. So when the National Assembly, that is the Senate and the House of Reps, makes laws in the national level, and state assemblies makes law, it is for the good governance of the society, of the nation, and of the state. So whatever issues are addressed by the law, you look at the intendment. What is the intendment of the legislature? And what is it taking care of? What are the laws they have made taking care of within the society? And if the laws are actually taking care of the needful, then you allow it be. You bring it to bear so that the implementation of such laws can bring order, can bring betterment to society. If you kill it, it's like what is supposed to bring good to the society has been scuttled. In other words, the evil that law is supposed to have taken care of will continue to be on the sprawl. So if the law has been made and it is there for something good, you don't bring, what we call the elite of this, the conspiracy of the elite against the benefit of the masses. Because all of these representatives that go there to make law is actually the power of the people. The people cannot all be there. They are the governed, and they have selected governors, and they are there as representatives. These very lawmakers are there as representatives of the people. So that is actually the People's Council. The council of the people. That is the people in council. But actually, in place by their representatives.
Okay, but do you see this development as causing another panic in terms of litigations that may come with it? Because I think a lot of litigations could be seen as even hampering democracy itself. What do you make of this? Do you think this will lead there?
You can't stop litigations. And in any civil or organized society, the law courts are there for interpreting the laws and for bringing justice to bear. If two parties maybe have some misgivings,
okay,
you go to the law court, you approach the law court, to decide one way or the other over your claims or over your positions, to bring clarity to it and bring justice to bear.
But is the act not well explained already?
When you talk about, the letters of the law, the intendment of the law, and the operations of the law, they are two different things. You are talking about when the law begins to operate, and is operating against your interest, even though you like it, and it's contrary to what you naturally want to be amenable to or to fall to, you want to see it as hampering your own interest. But if it is for the betterment of the society as a whole, and it is towards, giving a new lease of life, a fresh breath of life to the old order, you bring it to bear through implementation and enforcement.
Okay. Let's look at your perspective as a political analyst, Ibrahim, because we see all of this drag by those political appointees of the president, not quickly resigning until the president had to say that it gives them up to May 16, which was yesterday, to resign, and held a valedictory session. Now, what do you make of this development as it pertains to the political appointees and the Electoral Act?
Well, a couple of interesting takes, but the first, just before I do that, I just want to add to what you said that, in the way laws are made are twofold. The first is an act of parliament, the legislature making laws. The other way laws are made is through judicial precedents. And so when the courts, in their wisdom, interpret a law in line with the ground norm, the constitution of the country, that judgment clarifies. For example, in Nigeria, it is not a settled matter that about our politics, that the vote belongs to the political party and not the individual candidate. It's also a settled matter in law that in a validly conducted primary, the winner of the primary is the candidate for the election. In the case of Amechi versus Mehia and the PDP, of course, that issue was settled. The issue of Amechi winning the primary, but the third in position, Celestino Mejia, was the person the PDP submitted his name as the candidate. Amechi went to court and was able to reclaim his mandate because he won the primary. The process of becoming candidate is to win the primaries. So some of these things, it's not only by act of parliament, it's also by judicial precedent. When a judge, or particularly a Supreme Court justices have ruled on an issue, it becomes an integral part of the body of laws.
Yeah.
And so
because that has been tested.
Yes. So which is why this Section 8412 going to court is to also test, because people have argued, particularly from the executive arm of government, that the Section 8412 tends to run counter to the rights enshrined in the Constitution to vote and be voted for. 8412 says that if you are an appointee of government, you are not eligible to contest or vote or participate in a primary.
As a voting delegate or...
Yeah, the Constitution does not give...
or to be voted for.
Yeah, so the Constitution does not create that provision. The Constitution does not prevent any Nigerian, as long as you meet the conditions, you are 18 years and above, you are registered voter, member of the political party, and in case another subsidiary, criteria, as long as you meet those conditions,
you are good to fly.
Yeah. So, but that 8412 now debars,
streamlined it.
Removes that power that the Constitution has guaranteed, rights that the Constitution has guaranteed. And so, it is up to the courts really to settle that dispute, because the legislature are on one side saying that no, you have to resign if you are to hold political office, and then the executive is saying no, of course, like I think the AG is doing now, that no, it runs counter. It's also it runs counter to the provisions of the ground norm.
Of the ground norm, yeah.
So, on the basis of that, they are in court, and it is the court that will settle that matter, and becomes now part of our body of laws. Now, to the issue of the president holding a validatory session, stamping his feet and asking all those who want to contest to resign. I think for me it was an abuse of due process by those ministers, those appointees. Look at what the Court of Appeal ruled in the case earlier, that the person who went to court was obviously a proxy. He was not an interested party. He was not an appointee of government who was seeking election. And was just like, unlike the CBN governor who had gone to court on a similar stand.
Yeah.
You know, the person who went to court in the case that was ruled in Umuahia had no local standard. What was his business? It was like a medicine interloper. What was his interest in the matter? He was not an appointed government who was seeking political office and felt that his right had been infringed upon. So he just went to court, and then there was a judgment. Which is why, in a way, the Court of Appeal justices reprimanded the judge, the High Court judge who passed that judgment. You know, so I think the president was trying to play safe, essentially, because if the subsisting law or judgment says that rolls back the rights granted by the High Court, saying that no, that judgment cannot stand. It's not tenable for the ministers to still hold those positions and then seek elective position. Malami was seeking to be governor. A couple of ministers, Amechi, Timipre Silva, and even the CBN governor was seeking to be the president of the country. So the law is clear. You had, as of today, but it's possible that when the Supreme Court now rules on the matter, it could go either way. It could say, okay, no, you cannot prevent him from contesting. So that section 8412 is ultra-virus. It's against the provisions of the Constitution. And so the Supreme Court can nullify, you know, that provision of the Electoral Act.
So the judgment of the Supreme Court will determine rightly, how to really go about this. Well, still the ball is in your court now, Joseph Alego. Some are saying that political appointees or elected officers should be out. Why? Since they have the ambition, like the vice president, for instance, which this Electoral Act, may not really be targeting or be including or affecting in this whole law. Or what do you think about it? Shouldn't the vice president or any elected officer also be part of this?
Most of these things are interwoven.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about elections proper, as in general elections, it differs from maybe party conventions, meetings, and congresses that has to do with internal arrangements to throw up the candidate that is going to fly the party flag. And most of the times, some of those things, you discover that they are overbearing influences. Because when you are in government, you are in power. And power is, very intoxicating and very influential. When you bring your influence to bear on issues, it might color the outcome that is supposed to come out at the end of the day.
In your favor?
Yes, because sometimes, the people actually want a change. And the change might be hampered when those who are actually in government and have, power, come to bring their influence to bear.
Okay, but how should it be?
When from the intendment of the law as it stands, from that section 3, okay, you are staying out. If you want to come in, let it be that you have also stayed out of power to come in, so that it can actually be, people of divested interest, or let me say, people that are, not, colored by whatever is happening in government, so that they can actually bring up the kind of people that will be reflective of what the majority of the people, or maybe generality of the populace, wants to actually see there as a candidate. Okay, if you are in government and you are bringing your influence to bear on whatever is happening to throw up candidates and people who are supposed to fly the party flag, at the end of the day, you still want to cover up some aspect that has to do with your interest, so that it wouldn't, maybe leak or maybe come out there so you want to shield it in a way. Okay,
so stricto sensu, do you agree that it is not it is not in consonance with a level playing field with other contestants if the vice president still remains in office?
When there are conditions put in place for a particular thing to take place, and you want to be a part of taking, you want to take part in that stuff or that very program, you have to come in. You have to come in by, taking care of the conditions precedent or being amenable to it. For instance, if I said, okay, you cannot be in the NBA, meetings if you are not a lawyer. I'm not strict to sensu stopping your freedom of association. Or I'm saying, okay, if you want to come in, be a lawyer. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
So, if I could add,
if it runs, contrary to the provisions of the Constitution, that is what we are saying, that to the extent of such inconsistency, such provisions can be rendered null and void.
Okay.
But if it tallies with the provisions of the Constitution, you definitely cannot go against it.
Okay, I think that's why we need to be clear in this issue, so that we don't bring conditionalities. All right. We want to see the way it should be.
It should be. Okay.
So now, it means the law is not really there yet as per throwing light in this direction.
Like, this matter is before the court now.
Okay.
And so we don't want to preempt
more testing of it.
The decisions of the court.
Okay.
So let me add that, if you don't mind, that the vice president is an elected official of the state.
Yes.
Unlike the ministers who are appointed by an elected officer.
So there's a dichotomy.
Yeah, there's a difference, a clear difference. And one of the points in the election is that he has a term. He's supposed to be vice president for 4 years. There's nothing else should infringe, because that's a constitutional matter. The term of the president or other elected officials of the state is spelled out in the Constitution.
Okay.
So it's not something that, well, the date for the election, may differ. But his term, once sworn in, is for a 4-year term.
So even if he's eyeing another term,
yes,
he has to run through the first term. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and of course, nature abhors vacuum. It's not intended that there will be a situation whereby Nigeria will be without leaders. But Nigeria can be without appointed. Of course, even when this government came to power, in the first term and in the second term, it took about 3 in the first instance and 6 months in the second instance to, from May to August, I think it was 4 months, sorry, for him to get
the cabinet
in place. But the president and the vice president and permanent secretaries were still running the wheels of government. And so these are, the president and vice president are appointed. Unlike all those we are elected, unlike those appointees, some of them who are allowed to resign, or again are now on resigning.
All right.
Of course, it's a joint ticket.
It needs to make a sense. But do you concur?
It's a joint ticket. It's a joint ticket.
Okay.
So you cannot, whatever is happening to the president is also happening to the vice president. So if you say the vice president should resign, then you are saying the president also should resign.
No, but the president is not contested anymore for a third term. This is a second term. And so since he is vying for the position of the presidency,
he must. Okay, because as at the time he ran, first term, and he was to come in for second term, he didn't resign. He was running his term. Okay. So that's what I mean.
Okay, so the law is clear in that regard.
It's clear in that regard.
Okay.
Unlike the ministers, the special advisors, and others who are appointed, you can be hired and fired at any time, just as the valedictory section have been done for this other group. Other ministers will come in. So other ministers will definitely come in. So that is what, but for the elected officers, senators, House of Reps members, they are elected. So their term is sacrosanct, is clearly defined by the law.
Thank you so much, Alegu Joseph, legal practitioner. Big thanks, Ibrahim Momo, for taking our time to be part of this show. Well, that's all we have for you on this segment. It's the TMI. Don't you go.